Not everyone smiling at you is on your side. Some are just keeping score. They won't sabotage you openly. They're too smart for that. Instead, they'll stand beside you, just close enough to watch your every move and quietly hope you trip. They'll cheer when it's safe, nod when it's expected, but deep down, they're not inspired by your rise, they're threatened. This video isn't about envy, it's about strategy, the silent kind. Because some of your biggest competitors will never wear a rival's face. They'll wear a friend's. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The opinion of 10,000 men is worthless if none of them know the truth." But what if one of those men pretends to know you just to beat you? If you've ever felt tension in a compliment or distance after success, you're not paranoid or perceptive. These are 6 signs someone is secretly competing with you. And if this video stings a little, good. That means your instincts are still sharp. Like this video, subscribe for no fluff Stoic clarity, and drop a comment. I observe more than I speak. Let's begin. Sign 1. They downplay your wins. It happens quietly. You share a victory, a business success, a health milestone, personal goal finally reached, but instead of celebration, what you get is a half smile, a flat response, or a patronizing "must be nice." They may nod, they may even say the words, but their eyes give it away. There's no pride for you in their voice, only discomfort. And that discomfort has a name. Silent competition. I remember a man I once worked with, let's call him Harold. We were both nearing our 50s, both from humble beginnings, and both grinding through the midlife stretch of rebuilding. When I landed a small speaking engagement that meant a lot to me, I shared it over lunch. Harold nodded, poked at his salad, and said, "That kind of stuff is easy if you've got the right connections." I laughed it off, but deep down I knew what had just happened. It wasn't about my win, it was about his ego's loss. That moment taught me something Stoic philosophy had been whispering all along. Some people aren't offended by your failures, they're offended by your growth. The Stoics never measured a man by applause, they measured him by composure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth," which never harmed anyone. But in a world addicted to comparison, not everyone seeks truth. Some seek dominance. Men who secretly compete don't hate your success. They fear what it reflects about their own stagnation. And instead of using your wins as inspiration, they use them as proof of their own inadequacy. So they downplay it. They reframe it. They tell themselves you got lucky, or had help, or that it wasn't that impressive, because admitting otherwise would mean confronting what they've neglected in themselves. This behavior isn't always loud. In fact, it's almost never loud. It's subtle, a tone shift, a joke that cuts a little too close, a compliment that somehow feels like a correction. It's their way of pulling the spotlight off you and dragging it back onto the shared stage where they feel less overshadowed. Stoicism teaches that your worth is not dependent on others validating it. You don't need their applause. You don't even need their recognition. What you need is the discipline to recognize subtle sabotage for what it is, and not respond with resentment, but with clarity. Because here's the thing. When someone can't clap for you without coughing up a qualifier, it tells you exactly where they are in life, and it's not ahead. Don't shrink to make insecure people feel tall. Don't dim the fire you built with your own hands, just because someone else is sitting in the dark. A Stoic man doesn't demand recognition, but he also doesn't tolerate erosion of his worth. The next time someone minimizes your success, don't justify it. Don't explain it. Don't make it smaller to fit their comfort. Say less, observe more, and remember, you don't need to outshine them. You just need to keep walking your path with quiet strength. Let them play their hidden game. You stay sovereign. Because when they're busy downplaying your wins, what they're really doing is revealing their loss not of status, but of self. And that brings us to the next sign, because sometimes it's not what they say, it's what they imitate. Let's move on. Sign 2. They imitate your moves. Imitation may be the sincerest form of flattery, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a quiet act of war. There's a fine line between learning from someone and using them as a stepping stone to build your own illusion of superiority. You've likely seen it before. Someone observes your discipline, your results, your steady way of carrying yourself. At first it feels like respect. They mirror your words, your habits, even your posture. But then it shifts slowly. They begin to take credit, take space, take your blueprint, and try to make it theirs, with just enough difference to pass it off as original. The psychological motive here is rooted in insecurity. A man who lacks a solid core seeks identity through mimicry. Instead of investing the time to build something of his own, he latches onto yours and attempts to wear it like a suit that fits. And when the applause comes, he steps forward first not to thank you, but to compete. This isn't about admiration anymore. It's about control over perception, control over who shines brighter. Stoicism teaches us that external validation is meaningless when it costs internal peace. Seneca reminded us, one of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. But when someone copies your every move without acknowledgement, without reverence, it's not understanding, it's consumption. You're being used as raw material in someone else's ego project. A Stoic man doesn't resent this. He simply steps back and observes. He doesn't need to declare ownership over his style or success. His character does that for him. Let them copy. Let them race. But know this: what's built on imitation is fragile. It lacks the soul that comes from real struggle, from sacrifice, from self-awareness. Here's how you spot the covert competitor. They rarely celebrate you openly. When you evolve, they evolve just enough to keep up. They compliment you in public, but challenge you in private. They never ask how you did it. They only wonder how fast they can do it too. The danger isn't just in being copied, it's in being emotionally baited into competition. And that's the trap. You start to feel defensive. You feel the urge to mark your territory, to remind everyone who was first. But Stoic wisdom teaches restraint. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. When you feel provoked by their mimicry, take that as your cue to detach. Their need to outshine you is proof that they are still living in your shadow. Instead of trying to reclaim credit, reclaim distance. Redirect your energy back to yourself. You didn't become who you are by mimicking anyone, and you don't need to chase ghosts now. If they want to compete, let them do it in the mirror. That's who they're really trying to beat. Move on not because you're above it, but because you've already won by choosing to grow for yourself, not against someone else." Now, let's look at the next pattern, because the moment you stop feeding the competition, their desperation takes a different shape. Sign 3. They subtly compare but never compliment. There's a specific kind of silence that reveals more than words ever could. It's the silence that follows your success, the kind that isn't quiet out of awe, but out of competition. You tell them you've accomplished something, and their response isn't celebration, it's comparison. It's diversion. It's, "Yeah, well, or funny, I was just about to do that too." These aren't just casual remarks. They're calculated attempts to shift attention back to themselves. And over time, these micro-reactions form a pattern. It's one that reveals the truth. They're not listening to you because they admire you. They're scanning your life for things they haven't achieved yet. And instead of applauding, they're keeping score. A man who is secure in himself doesn't compare. He may admire, he may be inspired, but he never measures his worth by the pace of another. But the man who constantly redirects the conversation, who uses your victories as fuel for his own ego, is not on your team. He's in silent competition, not to grow alongside you, but to outpace you in the only race he knows, the one in his head. Stoicism calls this out for what it is: vanity masquerading as friendship. Epictetus taught that it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows, and the man who always tries to one-up you, who positions himself as your equal or better at every turn, isn't learning from you. He's defending his fragile sense of identity. There's something deeply immature about a man who can't hear good news without inserting himself into the narrative. It's not just annoying, it's a red flag, because it signals insecurity, and insecurity paired with proximity is a threat. These are the types who don't celebrate your growth. They monitor it. They won't admit it, but every step you take forward feels like a challenge to their self-image. And instead of doing the internal work, they attempt to level the field through subtle digs, passive comparisons, or carefully timed distractions. This is where your discernment becomes critical. A Stoic man doesn't waste time demanding validation. He doesn't beg for support or try to pull admiration out of reluctant people. Instead, he watches patterns. When someone never acknowledges your growth, but constantly finds ways to match or minimize it, you're not dealing with a supporter, you're dealing with a shadow rival. And it's not just about what they say, it's about what they withhold. Genuine men will give you your moment. They'll recognize effort, applaud discipline, and show up when it counts. But a secret competitor? He'll ghost your wins, or worse, he'll show up just to redirect attention so no one sees you too clearly. Understand this. When someone sees your progress as a threat instead of a shared victory, you owe them nothing. Not your explanation, not your presence, not your updates. If your peace makes them restless, let them sit in that discomfort. You are not responsible for managing someone else's insecurity. And here's the deeper cut. If you stay too long in the presence of someone who constantly competes with you, you'll begin to shrink without noticing. You'll downplay your wins. You'll hesitate to share your progress. You'll tiptoe around your own power just to keep them comfortable. And that is the slowest form of self-sabotage a man can commit. The Stoic path demands clarity, not just about yourself, but about those you allow into your space. You are not obligated to keep people close, just because they were there in the beginning. Some men were never rooting for you. They were pacing you, watching your steps, waiting for the moment you outgrew their comfort zone, so they could retreat and rewrite the narrative. The man who truly respects you will never make your success feel like a threat. He won't twist your growth into a competition. He won't flinch when you rise. He'll anchor you when needed and get out of your way when he sees your fire. So watch the ones who never clap. Watch the ones who always add a comment after your accomplishment. Watch the ones who mimic praise while their eyes reveal envy. That's not support. That's performance. As a Stoic man, you don't meet that energy with confrontation. You meet it with distance. Let them compare. Let them compete. But do it from afar. Because iron sharpens iron, not ego. Now, let's explore the fourth sign and what happens when your silence starts to provoke their mask. Sign 4. They only compete with people close to them. The most dangerous competitors are never the ones at a distance. They're the ones who sit across from you at dinner, shake your hand. Know your routines, the ones who stay close, not because they admire you, but because your proximity gives them something to measure themselves against. In their eyes, your success is not a motivator. It's a mirror, and that reflection burns. This kind of rivalry doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wear the face of open hostility. Instead, it operates quietly, fueled by comparison and the fear of being outpaced. These individuals are rarely obsessed with global achievement. They're fixated on beating you, not the world, not the marketplace. Because it's not about glory, it's about position. It's about keeping you close enough to watch, but not close enough to win. A man locked in silent competition is not ambitious. He's terrified of falling behind someone he once considered equal. Every move you make becomes a trigger. Every improvement you embrace threatens his sense of control. He'll act like he's cheering for you, but deep inside, every step you take forward, he interprets as a loss for him. Stoicism trains us to detach from public opinion. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. But here lies the rub. Those who secretly compete with you are not content with being overlooked. They crave admiration without effort. And in that desperation, they weaponize familiarity. They gather your habits, note your strengths, and then try to wear them as if they were their own. This is not growth. This is mimicry born out of insecurity. These men don't want to evolve. They want shortcuts. And your proximity gives them one until they realize copying doesn't produce character, it merely reveals the lack of it. Psychologically, these individuals suffer from what the Stoics would call a disordered attachment to status. Their identity is not built on virtue or inner excellence, but on a fragile sense of superiority that collapses whenever someone near them rises. And that's what makes their competition so dangerous. It's not driven by goals, but by fear. They don't aim to reach new heights. They simply want to make sure you don't get there first. A wise man doesn't compete with those beside him. He competes with who he was yesterday. He doesn't study others to outdo them. He studies himself to refine his path. A Stoic man knows that the loudest threat is often silent. And when someone close starts acting more like a rival than a companion, that silence is not empty, it's full of warning. The man who can't be happy for you when you grow, who tenses when you succeed, who smiles through gritted teeth when you're acknowledged, he is not your friend. He is your warning. So observe closely. Measure not only their actions, but their energy. Because real allies cheer when you rise. Hidden competitors calculate. And when that calculation becomes a pattern, you must choose. Either slow down to comfort their insecurity, or walk alone with clarity. Now, let's examine another trait that often hides. Beneath praise one that twists imitation into sabotage, because sometimes the most dangerous man in the room isn't the one who disagrees with you. It's the one who follows your lead just to eventually replace you. Sign 5. They withhold support when you level up. One of the clearest indicators of silent competition is not found in words. It's found in silence, not the peaceful kind, the calculated kind. The kind that creeps in when you achieve something substantial, something that shifts the ground beneath you. You reach a personal milestone, you achieve a breakthrough, you announce something meaningful, and suddenly the person who used to comment on every little update vanishes, not because they're busy, but because your progress unsettled something in them they can't face. This isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. Their silence isn't random, it's strategic. Because support, when offered sincerely, flows without resistance. It doesn't require prompting or performance. But those who secretly compete with you don't celebrate your evolution, they mourn it. Not outwardly, of course, that would break the illusion of support. Instead, they withdraw emotionally, quietly, deliberately. They withhold the very thing they once gave freely because your new level highlights their old patterns. In truth, most men who withhold support do so because, deep down, they had you categorized. You were safe. You were consistent, predictable, and, most importantly, you weren't a threat. But the moment you level up, the moment your actions outgrow their image of you, they feel their comfort slipping. And people don't react well when you tamper with their comfort. Stoicism teaches us to expect nothing, to release the need for external validation, but it also teaches discernment. And when someone's absence consistently coincides with your growth, you're not imagining it, you're observing a pattern. A man who shows up for your weakness but retreats from your strength is not supporting you. He's tolerating you until you no longer serve his self-image. This kind of dynamic is common, especially among people who have grown too comfortable being the stronger one in a relationship, whether that strength is social, financial, or emotional. They're fine being near you so long as they're above you. The moment the balance shifts, the support stops. You don't receive encouragement. You don't hear "well done." What you hear is silence, calculated, pointed silence. And here's the core truth behind it. Your success triggers a reckoning within them. It forces a comparison not between you and the world, but between you and them. And when that comparison doesn't fall in their favor, withdrawal becomes their shield. They tell themselves it's your ego, your change, your new priorities, but it isn't. It's your evolution, and that's what they can't reconcile with. This is why the Stoic doesn't chase applause. He doesn't perform for attention because he knows the sound of silence is often more honest than the sound of cheer. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." And the same is true for friendship. If someone only shows up when you're small, their absence when you grow says more than their words ever could. The deeper issue isn't just the lack of support, it's the message beneath it. A man who quietly withdraws when you grow is telling you, without saying a word, "You've outpaced me, and I don't know how to handle that." That's not your burden to carry. It's not your job to shrink for someone else's comfort. It's not your responsibility to dim your light to keep them from feeling lost in the shadows. There is a psychological toll to receiving applause when you're average, but being met with silence when you excel. It chips away at your trust. It makes you question your path. But a Stoic man does not recalibrate his journey based on the discomfort of others. He walks forward not because everyone claps, but because the path itself is right. In the end, you must ask yourself, who do you keep around and why are they there? Because you're comfortable, or because they respect your evolution? The man who supports you quietly when you're down, but disappears loudly when you rise, he was never supporting you. He was supporting the version of you that didn't make him feel small. Let his silence teach you something your emotions might try to ignore. Not everyone who started with you will finish with you. And not everyone who clapped in the beginning has the courage to keep clapping when you surpass their expectations. That's not betrayal. That's exposure. And the Stoic man, once he sees it, doesn't beg for an explanation. He adjusts and walks forward anyway. Sign 6. They gossip about you when you're not around. In a study published by Social, Psychological, and Personality Science, researchers found that nearly 2/3 of daily conversations among adults involve some form of gossip. That doesn't surprise most people. What should surprise you is this: the most dangerous gossip rarely comes from enemies. It comes from those who shake your hand, smile at your success, and lower their voice the moment you walk away. The person who secretly competes with you may never challenge you openly, but they will sabotage you quietly. They won't correct you to your face. They'll correct you behind closed doors. They won't confront you man to man. Instead, they'll bring up your name in rooms they know you're not in, usually right before a key opportunity, a meeting, a collaboration. And when they're called on it, they'll say it was just conversation. But it wasn't. It was erosion, deliberate, strategic erosion, not of your name, but of your reputation, your credibility, your perceived power in a space they want to dominate. This is not normal competition. This is silent warfare, a form of psychological undermining rooted not in ambition, but in fear. These individuals understand something dangerous, that one subtle seed of doubt about you, whispered to the right ear, can sabotage more than 1,000 words of truth ever could. And they use that knowledge not to grow, but to prevent you from growing. Gossip is not just idle talk for the secretly competitive. Currency. It's a way to gain ground without risk. After all, why outwork someone when you can outposition them? Why confront when you can erode? Why challenge when you can confuse? Here's the Stoic truth. A man who gossips about you behind your back isn't strong enough to stand in front of you. His tactics rely on distance, on absence, on the safety of whispers. He's not interested in open battle. He's interested in backdoors and shadows. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." And in that quote lies the key to understanding why secret competitors gossip. They want to shape the opinions of others about you, because, deep down, they know they've lost control over their own opinion of themselves. They feel inferior, but instead of facing that, they try to rewrite your narrative so they feel bigger without having to grow. This is the dark art of reputation manipulation. They don't want to destroy you outright. They want to shrink you quietly in the minds of others. They want people to see you through a fog, never through clarity, because in clarity you shine. In confusion you stall. A Stoic man doesn't chase gossip. He doesn't waste time defending himself in rooms filled with snakes. He lets the silence speak, and then watches who listens. Your job is not to clear every rumor or confront every slanderer. Your job is to observe who believes it, who participates in it, who spreads it. Those people are revealing their position, not yours. And when someone tries to excuse their betrayal with lines like, "It's just what I heard," or "Don't take it personally," that's when you know you were never dealing with a friend, you were dealing with a competitor in costume. Another hallmark of this behavior? These people often appear supportive as long as there's no audience. They'll compliment you in private, then question your motives in public. They'll text you encouragement, then casually mention your weaknesses to people you respect. It's not a mistake, it's strategy. And once you identify it, you don't retaliate, you recenter. A Stoic man doesn't defend himself to those who have already made up their mind. He doesn't water himself down to earn good press, because he understands truth has a longer shelf life than gossip. And the louder someone tries to reshape your image behind your back, the more exposed they look when reality doesn't match the rumor. So, if someone is always in the know about negative things said about you, but never seems to be there when you succeed, take note. If someone only speaks about your errors and never your effort, take distance. And if someone has the courage to mention your name to everyone except you, they've already told you who they are. Stoicism is not the art of being quiet. It's the art of mastering where your voice belongs. It doesn't belong in every room, but it must always belong in your mind with clarity, strength, and calm. Let them whisper. You keep walking. Not all enemies come swinging, some come smiling. They'll praise you in public, copy you in private, and quietly hope your next step is a misstep, because your success shines a light on their stagnation. The most dangerous rival isn't the one who attacks you. It's the one who claps with tight lips, the one who watches your every move, not to learn, but to stay 1 inch ahead. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't need to confront them. You don't even need to respond. Because the moment you stop playing their game, they lose instantly. Watch their energy shift when you stop feeding it. Watch their tactics collapse when you no longer explain, compete, or prove. Let them stay busy watching your footsteps while you focus on your path. Like this video if you've ever felt the fake applause before the quiet sabotage. Subscribe if you're done entertaining silent rivalry. And comment below. I rise in silence, they fall in obsession. Because the higher you go without looking back, the more they'll realize they were never in the race.